When my daughter told me she was evicting me from my own home, I felt the floor disappear beneath my feet. Days later, I was sitting across from a lawyer I couldn't afford, clutching documents I barely understood. That's when I realized life doesn't just give you lemons. Sometimes it throws them at you like grenades with the pins pulled out. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're from in the comments. Because trust me, this story twists more than a courthouse drama on steroids. My name is Clara, and at 58, I thought I knew what heartbreak felt like. I'd survived a bitter divorce, early retirement, and the slow, painful process of rebuilding my life piece by piece. My modest two-bedroom house was the one constant I could count on, my sanctuary in the storm. That Tuesday morning started like any other. I was in my garden, tending to my prized roses when I heard the crunch of tires on the driveway. Louisa, my only daughter, stepped out of her sleek black sedan. Something about her posture, too stiff, too rehearsed, sent a chill down my spine before she even spoke. "Mom," she said, not bothering with a hug or even a smile. "We need to talk." We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd helped her with homework, where we'd celebrated her college acceptance, where I'd held her hands after her first heartbreak. Now her manicured fingers slid a folder across the wooden surface. "I've been going through Dad's old papers," she said, her voice eerily calm. "The house isn't in your name. It's in a trust that passes to me. I've spoken with my financial advisor, and given the market right now." She paused, finally meeting my eyes. "I'm selling it. You have 60 days to find somewhere else to live." The mug of tea between my hands suddenly felt scalding. "What?" "Louisa, this is my home. Our home. It's an investment property now, Mom. My investment. You've been living here rent-free for years while I've been struggling to build my own life." "Struggling?" I echoed. The word felt wrong in my mouth. My daughter, with her executive position and vacation photos from Bali and Greece plastering social media. "I paid off this mortgage. Your father and I. Dad made the payments. You were just along for the ride." Her words sliced through decades of memories like they meant nothing. Script part separator, equals. I couldn't breathe. The kitchen walls seemed to close in around me. "That's not true, Louisa. I worked for 23 years while raising you. My name is on all the documents." She gave me a look I'd never seen before, cold, calculating, almost pitying. "Check the fine print, Mom. Dad was smarter than you give him credit for." She stood up, smoothing her expensive blazer. "My lawyer will be in touch with the formal notice. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." After she left, I sat frozen at the table until the afternoon sun shifted across the floor. My tea went cold. The home I thought was my anchor was suddenly quicksand beneath my feet. I spent that night digging through old filing cabinets, hands trembling as I sifted through yellowed papers. Robert and I had purchased this house together when Louisa was just 3 years old. I remembered signing the documents, dozens of them, while she colored quietly in the corner of the bank officer's desk. But as dawn broke, my stomach clenched. Robert's signature appeared on pages I didn't recognize, with clauses written in dense legalese. Had he really done this? Created a trust without telling me? Left me vulnerable while pretending we were partners? The next few days passed in a blur. I barely ate, barely slept. My neighbor Elaine brought over casseroles I couldn't touch. "Fight her," Elaine urged, her eyes fierce with protective anger. "That girl has forgotten who changed her diapers and sat up with her through chicken pox." But fighting required money I didn't have. My retirement funds were modest. I'd always believed this house would be my security. When the formal eviction notice arrived by certified mail on day 5, something inside me snapped. I was not going to be discarded like yesterday's trash. Not by Robert from beyond the grave. Not by the daughter I had raised. With shaking hands, I called Miguel Rodriguez, a lawyer who'd helped my friend through her divorce. His hourly rate made me wince, but I made an appointment anyway. Script part separator, equals. The law office was downtown in a building I'd passed 100 times but never entered. Miguel was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he greeted me. "Mrs. Winters, please sit down," he said, gesturing to a chair that probably cost more than my monthly pension. I laid out the eviction notice, my hands still trembling. My daughter says I have no legal right to my own home. He reviewed the paperwork, his expression carefully neutral. When he finally looked up, I braced myself for dismissal. Your ex-husband was thorough, he said, choosing his words carefully. The trust is legitimate. However, he held up a finger when my face crumpled. There are angles we can pursue. Questions about your contributions, verbal agreements, implied contracts. Hope flickered like a vyak flame. So I have a chance. A fighting chance, he corrected. But I need to ask you something uncomfortable, Mrs. Winters. Is there any reason your daughter would do this now? After all these years? De question hit me like a slap. I'd been so focused on my shock that I hadn't asked myself why. She mentioned a financial advisor, I said slowly. Luisa's always been ambitious, but never cruel. Not until recently. Miguel leaned forward. New influences in her life? A new circle of friends since her promotion. Wealthy people. She started talking differently about money, about success. And your relationship before this? I stared at my hands. We were close once. After the divorce, she sided more with her father. But this isn't my daughter. Mrs. Winters, Miguel said gently, sometimes money changes people. Other times, people around them change how they see money. I need you to prepare for an ugly fight. Family court cases reveal sides of people you never knew existed. As I left his office with a retainer agreement I could barely afford, something cold and determined settled in my stomach. Whoever was pulling my daughter's strings, whatever Robert had done behind my back, I would not go quietly. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my old friend Diane from accounting, who'd retired to Arizona. Diane, I said when she answered, I need to ask you about Robert's financial dealings before the divorce. Her long pause told me everything I needed to know. Script part separator, Clara, there's something I've been carrying for years. Diane's voice came through the phone, heavy with long-held secrets. Robert wasn't just playing with trusts for the house. He had patterns. My heart thumped painfully against my ribs. What kind of patterns? Financial maneuvers. Shell accounts. I saw things that didn't add up, but he was my boss, and... Why didn't you tell me? I interrupted, gripping the phone so tight my knuckles whitened. I tried, Clara. Remember that Christmas party? When I pulled you aside. You didn't want to hear it. You said I was jealous of your perfect marriage. The memory hit me like a physical blow. She had tried. I had refused to listen. The bombshells kept coming. Robert had maintained separate accounts, siphoning money into investments Diane suspected weren't entirely legal. Most disturbingly, she mentioned a recurring payment to someone named Vincent Carrera. That name. It was familiar, but I couldn't place it. After we hung up, I Googled Vincent Carrera and froze. There he was, the financial advisor Luisa had recently been praising on social media. The same man who'd been in photographs at her company dinner last month. This wasn't coincidence. The next morning, I drove to Luisa's office, something I'd never done before. The sleek high-rise towered above me, glass and steel reflecting the bright blue sky. I felt shabby and out of place in the marble lobby, but anger propelled me forward. Excuse me, I told the receptionist. I need to see Vincent Carrera. Do you have an appointment? She asked, barely glancing up. No, but he'll want to see me. Tell him Clara Winters is here, Robert Winters' ex-wife. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose just slightly. One moment. 10 minutes later, I was ushered into a corner office with panoramic views of the city. A man in his 60s rose from behind an imposing desk, his smile not reaching his calculating eyes. Mrs. Winters, what an unexpected pleasure, he said smoothly. How can Carrera Financial assist you today? I cut straight to the point. I know about the payments from my ex-husband. And I know you're advising my daughter to evict me from my home. I want to know why. His smile didn't falter, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Business is business, Mrs. Winters. And family, well, family is complicated. Script part separator, His words hung in the air between us, each syllable dripping with condescension. What exactly was your business with Robert? I demanded, planting my hands on his desk and leaning forward. Vincent's smile tightened. Client confidentiality prevents me from discussing that. And Louisa? Is she just another client? Your daughter is a promising financial mind. I'm merely guiding her towards smart investments. By forcing her mother into homelessness? My voice cracked. Vincent sighed, checking his watch. Mrs. Winters, real estate is an emotional business. But it's still business. The property is underperforming as an asset. Your daughter understands that. You've twisted her values. This isn't her. His eyes hardened. Perhaps you don't know your daughter as well as you think. The conversation was getting me nowhere. As I turned to leave, Vincent called after me. Clara, I'd reconsider any legal challenges if I were you. Family fights can get messy. Secrets tend to surface. The threat wasn't subtle. What secrets did he think I was hiding? Or was he warning me about secrets he knew about Robert, or even Louisa? Back home, I found another envelope had been slipped under my door. Inside was a formal offer, $20,000 to vacate within 30 days. A fraction of what the house was worth. I crumpled it in my fist. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I went to the attic and pulled out boxes I hadn't touched since the divorce. Tax returns, bank statements, birthday cards, 15 years of married life reduced to cardboard containers collecting dust. In the bottom of the third box, I found something odd, a birthday card to Robert from someone named Marissa. The handwriting was intimate, the message suggestive. The date stopped my heart. 2 months before Louisa was born. I kept digging, uncovering more cards, even a few photographs. Robert with a woman I'd never seen, both of them young, smiling. And there, in a faded Polaroid, the woman holding a baby. The world tilted beneath me. What had Robert been hiding? And what did it have to do with Vincent Carrera and my daughter's sudden betrayal? I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The clock was ticking on my eviction, and somewhere in this tangle of lies was the key to saving my home, and possibly my relationship with my daughter. Script part separator, The next morning, I called Miguel with shaking hands. I found something, I told him. Photos, cards. Robert had another family. Or at least another woman and a child. Bring everything to my office, he said. Today. I drove through pouring rain, windshield wipers beating a frantic rhythm that matched my heartbeat. The box of secrets such on my passenger seat like a ticking bomb. Miguel spread the photos across his desk, examining each with forensic attention. This woman, Marissa, could she be Vincent's wife? Ex-wife? He asked. I don't know. But the timing, the baby in these photos would be about Louisa's age. Miguel leaned back. Mrs. Winters, I think we just found our leverage. What do you mean? If Robert maintained 2 families, there could be financial improprieties, tax fraud, maybe even questions about inheritance rights. Achou Hanfrumi. You think the baby in these photos might have a claim to Robert's estate? To my house. I think the possibility is enough to make Vincent Carrera very nervous. 2 days later, my doorbell rang. Louisa stood there, her face pale, composed. We need to talk, she said, brushing past me without waiting for an invitation. I'm listening, I replied, arms crossed. Vincent says you've been making trouble. Digging up ancient history. Her voice was cold, but I detected something else. Fear? Is that what he calls the truth? Ancient history. She paced my living room, the room where she'd taken her first steps. Mom, you don't understand what you're getting into. There are complications. Like the fact that your father had another child? That Vincent Carrera has been manipulating our family for decades? Louisa froze. What are you talking about? The genuine shock in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't the mastermind, she was another pawn. Sit down, Louisa, I said gently. There's something you need to see. Script part separator, I pulled out the photos, spreading them across the coffee table like a sad mosaic of betrayal. Luisa's hands trembled as she picked up the Polaroid of the baby. Is this? She whispered, unable to finish. I believe it's your half-sibling, I said softly. Your father had a relationship with this woman, Marissa, before or during our marriage. Luisa sank onto the sofa, her professional facade crumbling. Vincent never mentioned this. He just said Dad had made provisions, that this house was meant to be part of my inheritance. And you believed him without question? We volte talking to me fast? Her eyes flashed defensively. He showed me documents, Mom. Dad's signature. Detrás de paperwork. And did you wonder why a financial advisor you barely know would take such an interest in our family property? She looked away, color rising in her cheeks. He's been mentoring me. Said I had potential. Luisa, I said, choosing my words carefully, I think Vincent Carrera has been using you to clean up Robert's loose ends. This house, there's something about it he wants buried. That's ridiculous. But doubt had crept into her voice. Is it? Have you asked yourself why he's so interested in this specific property? A modest house in a neighborhood that's hardly prime real estate? She was quiet for a long moment. He's been insistent about selling quickly. Cash deal. No inspections. The pieces were falling into place. I reached for my phone. We need to call Miguel. Now. Your lawyer. Luisa looked startled. Mom, I'm not dropping the eviction just because Dad had an affair. This isn't about the affair. It's about what might be hidden in this house, or under it. Script part separator, ===. 3 hours later, Miguel sat at my kitchen table with Luisa and me, surrounded by papers and cold coffee mugs. Let's be clear about what we know, he said, tapping a pen against a legal pad. Robert Winters had a relationship with Marissa, which produced a child. Vincent Carrera has connections to both Robert and Marissa. Now Vincent is pressuring Luisa to sell this house quickly, under market value, with no inspections. Luisa's face was drawn, her earlier hostility replaced with growing concern. What are you suggesting? Miguel leaned forward. I've seen cases where property is used to hide assets, sometimes illegal ones. My father wasn't a criminal, Luisa snapped. Maybe not, I said gently, but he was secretive. And Vincent has been manipulating both of us. Miguel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his eyebrows shot up. My investigador found something. Marissa's full name is Marissa Carrera. The room went silent. Vincenz? I couldn't finish the question. His sister, Miguel confirmed. And the child in those photos. According to birth records, his name is Thomas Carrera. He'd be 32 now. Luisa stood abruptly, pacing the kitchen. This doesn't make sense. Why would Vincent want me to sell my childhood home? What possible value? Because it's not just a house, I said, a realization dawning. Robert was in construction. He renovated this place himself after we bought it. The basement, Luisa whispered. Dad never let me play down there. Said it wasn't finished. Miguel was already on his feet. Show me. The three of us descended the narrow stairs to the basement I'd used mainly for storage. Concrete floors, cinder block walls, nothing suspicious at first glance. The back corner, Luisa said. Behind those shelves. Dad always kept them stocked with holiday decorations. Said not to move them because the wall wasn't properly finished. Script part separator, ===. Together, we pushed the metal shelving unit away from the wall. Behind it was what appeared to be ordinary cinder block, except for a slight variation in the mortar color in one section about 3 feet square. Miguel ran his hand over the surface. This has been redone. Recently. How can you tell? I asked. De texture. It's different from the rest of the wall. Luisa pulled out her phone. I'm calling a contractor. Within 2 hours, a burly man named Ed was examining the wall, tapping it with various tools. The sound changed noticeably when he reached the discolored section. There's something behind here, he confirmed. Want me to open it up? Luisa and I exchanged glances, then nodded. The process was dusty and loud. As Ed's sledgehammer broke through the cinder block, my heart hammered just as forcefully in my chest. What secrets had Robert buried in our home? When the hole was large enough, Ed shined a flashlight inside. Lady, you might want to call the police. Behind the false wall was a small room. Metal shelving lined the walls, but instead of holiday decorations, they held stacks of file boxes, a vintage safe, and what looked like financial ledgers. Miguel Vistledlow. Your ex-husband wasn't just hiding an affair, Mrs. Winters. He was hiding evidence. I stepped closer to the opening, dust tickling my nose. What kind of evidence? Ed widened the hole, and Miguel squeezed through, examining the contents without touching anything. Tax records. Alternative bookkeeping. And, he paused, shining his flashlight on the safe. We need the police. Now. Detective Lisa Chen arrived within the hour, bringing with her a forensics team that transformed my basement into something from a crime show. As they photographed and cataloged each item, she interviewed us in my kitchen. Mrs. Winters, she said, her dark eyes sharp with intelligence, did you have any knowledge of this hidden room? None, I answered truthfully. My husband handled the renovation. He always joked that a man needed his own space. And you, Mestre Winters? She asked Louisa. Did your father ever mention anything about this room? Script part separator, Louisa shook her head, her earlier composure completely shattered. Dad was private about his business dealings. I just knew he was successful. Detective Chen's expression remained neutral. And Vincent Carreira? What's his connection to all this? Louisa explained their professional relationship, her voice growing smaller with each detail. He approached me at a networking event last year. Said he'd known my father, that he could help me make smart investments. And the house? Detective Chen pressed. He was insistent, Louisa admitted. Said it was sitting idle while I could be building wealth. I never questioned why he cared so much. As the forensics team worked downstairs, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Winters. A male voice asked when I answered. This is Thomas Carreira. The room went silent. I put the phone on speaker. I understand you've been looking into my past, he continued. Into my connection to Robert Winters. Yes, I managed to say. Vincent doesn't know I'm calling you. But you need to understand what you're dealing with. My uncle, Vincent, and your ex-husband had a partnership that went beyond business. What kind of partnership? Detective Chen interjected. There was a pause. Who else am I speaking with? Detective Lisa Chen, Metropolice. We're currently examining a hidden room in Mrs. Winters' basement. Thomas's sharp intake of breath was audible. Then it's too late. Vincent will already know. Know what? Louisa demanded. That the records are exposed. The evidence of what they did. Which was what, exactly? Detective Chen's voice was steely. Money laundering. Tax fraud. And worse. My mother, Marissa, tried to get out when she realized how deep it went. That's why she disappeared when I was 15. My blood ran cold. Disappeared. Script part separator, Officially, she moved to Europe. Unofficially. Thomas's voice cracked. I don't know what happened to her. But Vincent took me in, controlled everything, my education, my career path. He's been watching your house for years, Mrs. Winters. A chill ran up my spine. Why? Because of what's in the safe. Documents. Names. Accounts. Enough to bring down people much more powerful than Vincent or Robert. Detective Chen was already on her radio, requesting additional officers. Thomas, she said, are you somewhere safe? For now. But not for long if Vincent realizes I've contacted you. He's been acting strange since Mrs. Winters visited his office. My doorbell rang, making us all jump. Through the peephole, I saw Vincent Carrera himself, immaculately dressed, smiling as if he'd been invited for tea. He's here, I whispered. Don't open it, Thomas urged. Vincent doesn't make social calls. Detective Chen signaled her partner, who slipped out the back door to circle around. Mrs. Winters, keep him talking. We need time for backup to arrive. With trembling hands, I opened the door, leaving the security chain engaged. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. Clara, we need to talk about your discoveries. I'm not alone, Vincent, I warned. The police are here. His smile vanished. I see Louisa has chosen sides. Disappointing. She chose truth, I shot back. Truth is relative, Clara. Did Thomas call you? Tell you his sad story about Marissa? He gave a cold laugh. Always so dramatic, that boy. Just like his father. Louisa stepped into view behind me. His father. You mean my father? Vincent's eyes narrowed. Oh, Louisa. You really don't know anything, do you? Robert wasn't Thomas's father. I was. Script part separator, The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Vincent, Thomas's father? Louisa gasped behind me, her hand gripping my shoulder. Vincent's cold eyes darted between us. Yes, Marissa was my wife, not my sister. Robert helped me hide certain complications when my business dealings became scrutinized, including my own son. And my mother. What happened to her? Thomas's voice came through the phone speaker, raw with emotion. Vincent's face hardened. She became a liability. Made threats. Robert offered a solution. My knees nearly buckled. You killed her. Vincent's laugh chilled my blood. So dramatic, Clara. We simply ensured her permanent relocation. The documents in that safe, however, those are another matter. Sirens wailed in the distance. Vincent's head snapped toward the sound, his composure cracking. You've made a terrible mistake, he snarled, backing away from the door. Detective Chen appeared behind him, gun drawn. Vincent Carrera, you're under arrest. What followed was chaos. Vincent attempting to flee, officers tackling him on my front lawn, neighbors emerging from their homes to witness the spectacle. Louisa stood frozen beside me, watching her mentor being handcuffed, and read his rights. I found my voice somehow. The house, I said to Louisa. It was never about the house itself. It was what Robert hid inside it. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I believed him. I thought Dad had. I pulled her into my arms for the first time in years. We've both been manipulated, sweetheart. As the police led Vincent away, Thomas's voice came through the forgotten phone. Mrs. Winters? Are they gone? Yes, I answered. It's over. Not yet, he said grimly. There are others. Powerful people. This is just the beginning. Script part separator, That night, as forensics teams continued processing the hidden room, Louisa and I sat in the kitchen, piecing together fragments of the past. I can't believe I almost made you homeless, she whispered, clutching her coffee mug like a lifeline. I was so sure Dad had intended. Vincent knew exactly which buttons to push, I said. He studied us for years. Detective Chen entered, looking exhausted but determined. The contents of the safe have been catalogued. It's worse than we thought. Offshore accounts, blackmail evidence, records of bribes to city officials. How deep does this go? Louisa asked. All the way to the mayor's office. Possibly beyond. Chen's phone buzzed. She checked it and her expression darkened. Thomas Carrera just missed his check-in with our protective detail. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means someone got to him. Vincent has connections even from jail. The legal proceedings moved at a glacial pace over the following weeks. Each day brought new revelations, prominent citizens implicated, mysterious bank transfers, even a judge recusing himself due to conflicts of interest. Miguel became our constant guardian, fielding media calls and threatening legal action against reporters who camped outside our door. The district attorney wants both of you to testify, he informed us one evening. The preliminary hearing is set for next Monday. Is it safe? I asked, thinking of Thomas's disappearance. Miguel's eyes were grim. Nothing about this is safe, Clara. But it's necessary. The courthouse steps loomed before us that Monday morning, a gauntlet of reporters shouting questions as we ascended. How does it feel to learn your ex-husband was involved in corruption? Louisa, did you know about your father's criminal activities? Mrs. Winters, will you be seeking ownership of the evidence found in your home? Inside the courthouse, Vincent sat at the defense table, flanked by two expensive-looking attorneys. He didn't acknowledge us as we were led to our seats. The proceedings began with dry formality, but the atmosphere electrified when the prosecutor called me to the stand. As I raised my right hand to swear the oath, the courtroom doors burst open. Thomas Carrera strode in, accompanied by federal agents. Vincent half rose from his seat, his face contorting with rage before his attorneys yanked him back down. "Sorry I'm late," Thomas announced. "I've been with the FBI, turning over additional evidence from my mother's safety deposit box." The judge banged his gavel as whispers erupted. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" The lead federal agent stepped forward. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Marissa Carrera anticipated her disappearance. She left instructions and documentation with her attorney to be released if she didn't make regular check-ins." Vincent's face had gone ashen. What followed was devastating testimony about decades of corruption, culminating in the revelation that stunned the entire courtroom. Marissa hadn't disappeared. She'd been murdered, her body buried beneath the foundation of a building Robert had constructed. And there was DNA evidence linking Vincent to the crime scene. As Vincent was led away in additional shackles, his eyes locked with mine. In that moment, I saw nothing but a hollow man whose empire of lies had crumbled. Louisa gripped my hand as we left the courthouse. "Home?" she asked simply. "Home," I agreed. That evening, sitting in our garden as the setting sun painted the sky, Louisa signed papers Miguel had prepared. "The house is legally yours now, Mom. No trustes, no conditions. Smiled, watching a butterfly land on my roses." "Sometimes," I said, "the walls we think protect us are actually hiding our greatest dangers." "And sometimes," Louisa added, "the family we're born with isn't as important as the family we choose to be." We clinked our teacups in silent agreement, two survivors finally free from the secrets that had nearly destroyed us.